I'm lucky enough to call you a friend off of podcasts, and I
Of
have
you.
to listen to enough of you talk about Chelsea. So we're not going to talk about Chelsea anymore. We are going to talk about Gareth Southgate's England. For me, when I think of Gareth Southgate's England reign, I see it as a success. It fills me with joy. It gave me some of the best football memories I've ever had.
Yeah.
I know Ollie feels the same, probably to an even deeper level.
Mate,
This man's
much.
probably got a waistcoat on under the t-shirt right now. I wouldn't be surprised.
Should have brought it with me. That would have been a good idea, actually.
How do you feel when you think of Southgate's reign?
Love it, absolutely love it. Like I grew up younger as an England fan, but maybe not a connected England fan. Not someone who really remembered too much of like our noughties kind of era. I was born in '97, so obviously don't really know much of the Italian '90s stuff. I've watched back and seen. So never really grew up like thinking, even though we had great England teams with Lampard, Gerrard, Rio Ferdinand, like unbelievable guys. Wayne Rooney when he was coming through at the time, and knowing that like this team should be doing something but not, and so never really feeling quite connected with it. I think Southgate's era was the first one where I felt a part of it and felt like this can be something. Now maybe that's just me being like a success kind of glory hunter and seeing us doing well, but I actually do feel like it was the first one where I was a little bit older and I could like enjoy it by going out with people and watching games in these fan parks or whatever it might be. But I think it was incredible, genuinely absolutely incredible, and I absolutely love what he's done for English football, like beyond just the national team. I think he's been so crucial to getting the academies and youth football like to the next level, because I think people forget before he was even the England manager, he had that role at the FA doing a really, really impressive job, and changing how the press and the media are with the England team, because we've all seen the documentaries. It looked horrible. It looked awful. Like if you had a bad game, David Beckham, Wayne Rooney, coming back home would not be fun. It'd be awful for a long, long time. And Southgate did an incredible job. And I think for whatever does happen in future has set a foundation that ideally will never be rocked.
100%. I think you talk about connection. Like, that is just...
Yeah.
I don't think there are many England teams that have had that connection with their fans like ever, to be honest. I don't think it's just exclusive to the modern era. And I think Southgate's history of just, he was rocking up at schools in like 2015 teaching them about how to get their kids into football, and like he's set foundations across the country. There's a really good book called Dear England, also a play, although they're not connected, I don't think, about Southgate's England. It's really good. I recommend reading it if anyone's interested, or just listen to this podcast. Probably a better idea, actually.
Ollie is on commission. 10% will go to him.
He wrote it.
I want to pull us back a little bit to when it wasn't Southgate, and it was maybe England's darkest day, England-Iceland. I want to start with a little quiz. I don't know if you might have seen for this, but I'm going to ask you boys if you can name the England starting 11 that lost 2-1 to Iceland. Euro 2016, probably the worst result I can remember as an England fan.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Comfortably, maybe.
I think I watched the game in the gym or something like that. I'm pretty sure I actually remember being on the running machine or something.
So start us off, just go through, can you name me the England team?
Joe Hart in goal.
Yeah, Joe Hart
in
in
goal.
goal.
Stinker for one of the goals,
Definitely.
didn't he?
Has Walker started at right back at this point? Kyle Walker at right back.
Kyle Walker is the right back.
Eric Dyer at centre back.
Centre mid.
Oh, okay.
Chris Smalling centre back.
Chris Smalling is the centre
Phil
back.
Jones.
Not
Gary Cahill.
Gary Cahill. So you've got Joe Hart,
Gaza.
Kyle Walker, Gary Cahill, Chris Smalling. Just in front of him is Dyer.
Luke
back.
Shaw.
Who's left back.
I'll say Danny Rose.
Danny Rose is correct.
Great shout.
Midfield.
So we'll say Eric Dyer's at DM.
Eric Dyer's sitting. You've got
Henderson. Is he already in this team?
Jordan Henderson.
Was Rooney in midfield?
Rooney's in midfield with Dele Alli.
Oh my God!
And
Yeah,
then-
I want my.
Dele's
You've got to
incredible
give me the
form.
front three.
Well, it must have been Kane.
Kane.
Sturridge.
is correct,
I was going to say Sterling.
and Sterling is correct, and that is the team that lost 2-1.
Man, that's not a bad team, is it? on
It's not.
paper?
It's not a
That
team to be
shouldn't
losing to Iceland. It's really not. Was that our rock bottom?
Yeah.
At least in our
I
lifetime.
think for
I
me,
think so,
yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
It was hopeless. Yeah.
Like, this is what I mean. At that point, I just probably didn't care, really. Like,
Yeah.
I always loved a tournament, an international tournament, but I don't think I cared that much about what this
Such a
And it
disconnect.
felt like, to be honest, and I'm sure they would never say this at all, like, I'm sure you speak to any of these players who played for England, they would all say they loved playing for their country. But I don't know if I think they probably prefer playing for their club at the time. Whereas I wonder if you ask a lot of the players who were in the Southgate era whether they've enjoyed their club football more, international football more. I wonder if maybe some of them would suggest international football.
I agree.
I think they probably would. Yeah,
Yeah.
they probably would.
100%.
So then Hodgson gets Well, did he resign?
I think he resigned.
He had a press conference afterwards where he was basically like, "This is pointless now."
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
And then Allardyce came in, managed one game, and was swiftly removed again.
Yeah,
I just barely remember it.
I mean, isn't that what a butterfly effect that would be though? What if Allardyce had stayed on and not?
Well, he wins that game as well, doesn't he?
Narrowly, yeah,
100%.
100%.
It was against like Slovenia or something,
yeah,
and it was like we weren't great in that game, from what I remember. And then Southgate came in, but originally
he was interim.
Yeah, he didn't want the job.
Yeah,
I think he was under 21 manager. He got promoted, and he didn't want to take that job on full time. Did any of us think that it would go on to be an 8-year tenure featuring 2 Euros finals and a World Cup semi-final at that point?
Not at all. Not at all. Like, I think even when you think back to the fact that Allardyce had won it, and I know Allardyce has had a very established career, but even then, I mean, we just kind of had it with the Thomas Tuchel arc, who maybe we'll touch upon later on, but even then it was a thing where, like, we don't want a non-English coach, and so you're kind of the manager who can come in, you're kind of limited to who it could be. Like, Allardyce ends up being the front runner, and it feels kind of mad to say that now, but at the time it was kind of like, he kind of feels like he's the next one in the line to get it, doesn't he? After how long he's been in the game for. And I remember Southgate. I do remember thinking I liked the fact he'd been in the setup.
Yeah,
I like the fact that he's been behind the scenes. I like that he's been with the youth coaching. I like the fact that he'd done a lot in his kind of FA role prior to that as well, because there was a lot to be said, I remember, of his kind of managerial career and how it wasn't necessarily amazing. And this is where I think he figured out, like, some of the easy wins he can have, having experienced it as a player from Italia 90 to now, ended up being so successful. But at the time, I think a lot of people were kind of just like, God, Gareth Southgate, really? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Like, I remember a lot of people being quite underwhelmed.
Yeah, of course.
I think so. He didn't want the job originally, and then he basically changed his mind and then said, actually, I do want it. I think the FA wanted him more than he wanted them. But he'd obviously been in the youth setup, and a lot of the FA's philosophy around that point was to get the youth teams winning and get England teams at any level used to winning tournaments. It doesn't matter how big or too small. And I think there was a tournament called like the Toulon tournament, which is like it's like a 4-team tournament or something. It's a really small under 21 tournament, which England won, and they had like a massive party after the one. It was like treated as like a major victory within the setup, because it was like, we won something and these players need to get used to that. And Southgate was the manager for that. So I think that's kind of why they were like, right, you now go and push on because you've won something, and it doesn't matter how small it is. And eventually they managed to persuade him. And then, a couple of years later, we had the 2018 World Cup.
Russia. That was
what a summer.
That was a game changer, wasn't it? That was just...
That was just the best.
Unbelievable.
Tournament.
It's actually funny, because I remember seeing a lineup of his squad in 2018. It's not as good as you think it is.
Oh, mate,
no.
It really isn't.
Not.
And, like, again, if you actually look back at the football we played, it's not that great.
Pieces.
Like, it was massively set pieces. But that's what I think international football, we weren't doing... or maximising at times, like being good on set pieces, being defensive first. Like, I always think back in the day when we had Wayne Rooney and when we had Gerrard, Lampard, Beckham, we were always thinking about, like, okay, how do we get our attacking players working? And that's definitely not a bad thing at all. Like, you can look at many countries. However, a common theme, I think, normally in football, international football, is the defensive structure and the defensive mentality first.
Yeah.
It's always what gets you far and always what wins you things. And we deployed a 3 at the back system. Some would argue 5 at the back, depending on how it was used, and it worked really well for us. It really did. Even Dele Alli in that tournament, I think, had a decent kind of appearance too.
Scored in the quarterfinals. I remember, against Sweden,
and we saw something that we'd never seen: the penalty shootout. I remember walking. I watched it in a
pub.
pub.
Goosebumps just thinking about that.
So I watched it in a pub in London, and I remember walking home and seeing England flags out, and everyone was really getting behind the country. I remember having this moment of going, like, I've never seen that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember, like, seeing that, and I just don't remember this feeling of winning a penalty shootout. Yeah. It was just like a big moment, that Colombia shootout.
Pickford
wasn't
was
it?
huge in that. Pickford was so huge.
Unbelievable.
I remember in the extra time, him making that save from like a 35-yard shot from Colombia and doing incredible. But again, these are the guys where Southgate kind of knew these boys and brought them through. Pickford was one of them who he'd had experience with and managed to bring through to the first team.
I've got another good little tidbit that I learned from my various Southgate research that I've done. So penalties was something obviously that England have always been terrible at before Southgate, and they worked on it a lot, obviously. But they got in a sports psychologist, which I think was like that was quite a new concept for England, and they spoke about penalties. And one thing that Southgate made them all do for that tournament was when they put the ball down, don't turn your back on the goal. Keep looking forward the whole time. So when you watch it back, they all put the ball down. They all walk backwards, looking at the goalkeeper, because it's like you need to like own the moment and be in charge of the situation.
Okay.
And the first shootout that he had, we won.
I mean, there is so much to be said for sports psychology. I know not to bring it to Chelsea, but Chelsea have currently brought in, oh my God, his name's going to escape me, but he is a huge rugby player, but is now in as like a sports mentality coach, and he basically does so much for Chelsea behind the scenes now in terms of bringing the squad together, having this like very much us against everybody else mentality, and trying to put that into the side. And he came in January. When Chelsea's kind of format first dipped massively, but it's proven to be really, really useful in these kind of competitions that Chelsea have gone far in the European Conference League, and obviously the Club World Cup. He was super, super integral, and now they view him as like this super, super important person at Chelsea. And I think more sports teams are trying to bring in this kind of mental side of the game, and they should do as well. Like, it's so important, especially in the case of penalties. Like, half of it is a mental battle.
Almost exclusively.
We're being told his name's Willie Issa.
Yes,
Willie
yes,
Issa
that is exactly who
the
Chelsea
name.
brought in. Willie
I
Issa,
mean,
yeah.
being told, I just knew that. Ball knowledge, guys. Come on. And you touched on the team not being that strong. It really wasn't that strong of a team. And on this podcast, Nearly Men, we always discuss like teams, like where they're at and stuff when they start. And this England team wasn't ultimately ready, when I look at it, to get to a semi-final, let alone a final. So it almost came a little bit too soon. And I'm wanting to ask you both, do you think that the success of Russia put a little bit too much pressure on too early for England? Because there was a lot of people after that Croatia game saying, oh, we should beat Croatia. Who are Croatia?
But I think that's
do you think that's just wrong, or do you think that's overachievement?
Were really good.
Croatia, but like they were good, and they were definitely better than us. But it was like, in the history of our lives, England should normally beat Croatia.
Yeah,
but in that tournament, we weren't better than them.
That's what was getting thrown about.
Yeah, but also if you watch back the game, like, England have chances. Like, if you watch it, like, there was always obviously the Raheem Sterling one, and even Harry Kane had an opportunity, and so sometimes you just got to go, that's football. Like, unfortunately, that's football. And
we just ran out of steam.
We did, and like, it took the. You know, Kieran Trippier scoring an absolute outrageous free kick.
That might be the best moment of my life.
It was incredible.
Anything like it.
It was incredible, and it was almost picture perfect, to be honest, for how it worked. But like that moment, I think everyone realised, okay, there's something here, because I think if that had gone, if say we lost on the penalties, is Southgate still manager for the next tournament at that point? Not. Like, I don't know.
That was a Colombia that had no James Rodriguez too. Like it. Yeah, and I
remember Yerry Mina. I think he was one of the biggest names in that squad at the time. Like, that would have been could have been a completely different side of it. And so I think it showcased that, like, okay, Southgate's got something here. Maybe at the time, not necessarily the football side of things, but definitely the squad. I think everyone realised that this squad love him. And that's a really important thing here.
Yeah, he was so loved at that point. It's quite funny to think how his perception, or the perception of him, changed throughout his tenure, because at that point he was like a national treasure.
But do you also not remember as well? I feel like I remember, and maybe it's because obviously I was working in football, and like I was always like looking into these things about who's the next like really interesting kid. I remember in that tournament there always being a little bit of talk about how like, but the next set of stars that are coming through are really impressive. Like, your Phil Foden is obviously got huge potential here. John Stones was actually quite young at the time, but he could be like a leader for England going forward. Like, there were always these mentions of like Dele Alli, to be fair. Like, obviously, unfortunately, his career didn't go to the way it felt. But there were a lot of these guys at the time where it was like, okay, this is England now, but the future of these guys that maybe I was going to say Sir Gareth Southgate. Yeah, Sir Gareth Southgate could end up dealing with and developing. He could be the perfect guy for them. And I felt like, again, maybe it's because I was working football and I was kind of around that talk anyway. But I do feel like there was a lot of chat about how he could be the guy that gets the best out of these like future generations.
Because we started winning more youth tournaments around there. That would have been around the time we won the World under 17 World Cup, and then the under 20 as well. I think I can't remember which way around it was, but like. Yeah, it was like, okay, we're actually building something pretty good
all the way through. That's what you're saying. It's
exactly.
So important.
And that was pivotal to the the FA's overarching tactics. But yeah, I still look back on that tournament 2018 so fondly because we shouldn't have won that. We weren't the best team in the tournament, and we got a little bit lucky with the draw. I remember there was the England-Belgium game in the group. I remember
we wanted to lose.
Yeah, both teams wanted to lose. Both teams made like 11 changes, and both teams wanted to lose that game, and we ended up losing it and got the favourable side of the draw. But still, I mean, yeah, that was just so enjoyable.
But that tournament was like a national team healer. It got everybody to go, you know what? I like being an England fan. I love being an England fan. That was amazing. That was enjoyable. Throwing your £6.50 bill in the air. That was like a moment of everyone's like, still doing it now, a little bit less, bit less keen.
Completely
but we'd never had that feeling before. Like for a lot of like our generation, we'd never had that feeling before where we can go out with a guy I've never met before, been like, England just scored a goal, I'm hugging you. Their videos. I remember going to Box Park the first time in 2018, and there is a video of me. I think we've ended up beating Panama 6-0. Was it in the end?
6-1.
Something like that. One moment, one of the goals in celebration, someone's knocked my eye, and my contact has gone flying out. I've caught it mid-celebration and put it back in mid-celebration. But another of the goals, I remember just like hugging this random guy who I've never met before, who I've never seen afterwards. But like that was the thing that I'd never really had before in I guess international football. Chelsea, a little bit different. You always get on with your other mates or non-mates who are fans of Chelsea. But for England, I'd never had that before, ever. Yeah. And it was nice to go to work or wherever and feel like everyone was kind of like, oh, did you see the England game yesterday?
Yeah.
Or we're going to watch it tonight. You want to cut all that kind of stuff. That was never something that had happened before, all of my experience.
And it was only 2 years on from Iceland, as we
discussed,
which is so quickly. So low to so high. Like
ridiculously high.
Completely flipped the script, didn't we? Do you put much stock into the Nations League that followed 2019?
I briefly spoke about this before we started. I mean, I don't care about the Nations League. Like when we got knocked out of the Nations League in like 2024, whatever it was, I can't remember.
Don't even
remember.
remember.
When we got relegated to League B.
Yeah, Southgate haters were like, see, we can't even win the Nations League. It's like, if he had won the Nations League, you wouldn't have cared.
You wouldn't have counted it. Yeah.
But I do remember we'd obviously lost to Croatia in the World Cup, and then we beat them in the Nations League to like qualify for the little finals
knockout
thing they have,
sections,
and that felt like a little bit of a. That wasn't
redemption.
Very England-like. It was very un-England to go and do something like that. And
did we lose to the Netherlands in that?
Yeah, we lost in the semi, but then we won another penalty shootout in the third place playoff, and it just felt like we were doing things that England don't do. And it doesn't really matter whether you win the Nations League or not, but it was just like.
I mean, the Nations League just score a friendly, really. Like, that's what it is. Instead of having friendly matches which mean nothing, we've got matches that also kind of mean nothing, but a little bit more than a friendly. That's essentially what it is.
Yeah. Teams will semi take it seriously.
Yeah,
but not
exactly.
Really.
Exactly.
No, I agree. I barely remember it.
No,
I can't remember where I was.
I didn't watch the semi-final.
I do remember watching it more for the fact of 2018, thinking like, oh, we could like do something here, or just like to see
Southgate
us
had you
continue.
Had you back
literally, in. No, literally. Like, I would never cared about watching a friendly game beforehand ever. Whereas now, like, I was actually very keen to watch the Nations League to see what was building here, and again, very nearly ended up lifting it.
Yeah, true. Well, then we move on to Euro 2020. Well, 2021, but. That for me might be the most heartbreak I've ever felt at the end of that tournament.
Yeah,
I can't think as an England fan that I've ever felt lower than losing that game.
We were really good that tournament. That's the thing. Whereas other people could argue in 2018 we weren't maybe the best team there. We were really good. We were really, really good. And this is where the squad starts to become really good. Like one of the best in Europe. And it's like, I mentioned Phil Foden earlier. I don't know why he's the one that keeps, but like Mason Mount had also come into this team at this point.
Saka, I think.
Saka was breaking through, really. These like guys who now it's funny to look at them and think, well, especially in Bukayo Saka, like maybe one of the best in the world in his position, but was breaking through to become and into this. Raheem Sterling at the time, mate.
He was unreal.
Adored that man. I remember buying a T-shirt that said "God Save Raheem."
Yeah,
was like, absolutely adored. I loved
You still
him.
got it?
I do somewhere. But the game against Germany, and obviously you got to remember as well. This is after COVID. This is after everyone has had a really rough 2 years, locked indoors. We're just getting let out because I think the first game at Wembley
they had fans.
was one of the tester events. It was 30,000 people at Wembley. and it was like, oh, what's this? And you can feel like the excitement of everyone in the stadium. And then we obviously played Germany. And
what a game!
That game was incredible. Like the Raheem Sterling again being absolutely incredible. There's that great video of him, not for his actual goal, where he misses a chance, and Thomas Muller goes on the other end, and he misses, and you see Raheem Sterling like, oh, like
that was terrifying.
Heart in mouth moment.
I remember the commentary for that. I think they go like, "This doesn't happen normally."
Yes,
it's like Thomas Muller, who's like always scores against England, and we've just got one. I think we were 1-0 up at that point. We just scored, and it was like he's missed. Yeah, he's actually missed. Like what this? Yeah, that does not. I think that's probably the most significant win of Southgate's tenure. I think
I didn't manage to go to that game, but I've got a couple of mates who did, and they say it's one of the best atmospheres they've ever been in.
I'm not surprised.
And it was moments where like people were bundling over in celebration. Like I remember Joe Tomlinson ends up getting like a gash on his neck from like falling over onto the floor or something, and it was just incredible. He was saying, but that whole tournament was like we were really good. We were like becoming really good, and you felt like England could now play football. Before it was like we're hanging in games, give us a corner, we'll score a goal of Harry Maguire. That was still part of our part of the design. But now give us a ball and we'll play football here. Like we'll make great moments. Harry Kane will do incredible things for us. Although is that the tournament where Harry Kane actually doesn't get off to a flyer?
Well, he didn't score in the groups, but then to be fair, he did score in the quarters. No, in the last 16, the quarters and the semis of that tournament.
Because I was at the semis as well.
Yeah,
amazing.
I watched that in Trafalgar Square. They had like a fan park thing. You had to apply for tickets, and like everyone I knew applied. Like none of us got them, and I was like, "Okay, well, we'll make separate plans." Then the morning of it, my girlfriend was like, "I've got 2 tickets. I've just won the ballot." So we went, the 2 of us, and talk about like hugging randomers. It was insane.
But that's one of the nicest things I think, especially at this point as well after COVID. People didn't even like football. People who would never watch a Premier League game, don't have a football team, they're in on England at this point. They're loving it, and they're wanting to go to these events and watch and be a part of this special moment with people. Like the Denmark semi-final, I was there. I'm not a massive singer at games. I'm not a massive singer. I'll enjoy a chant every now and again. But England, I was there. Like, the voice at the end was hoarse, absolutely hoarse. And when we obviously go 1-0 down at first,
Damsgaard scored that mental.
And there's these moments in your brain where you're just thinking, "Oh no, like not again." And arguably this one feels even worse than 2018 at this point. But England managed to come back, and this is where it starts putting these seeds in your mind where you're thinking, "Sure, is this written in the stars? Is this written in the stars? Is this going to happen?" And I mean, that semi-final when England at Wembley, it was just the aftermath was amazing. Like the feeling of like euphoria was absolutely incredible. That was the semi-final.
Yeah, I was gonna. Well, let's talk about the final. Luke Shaw's goal, and obviously,
did we score too early?
Did we score too early? Well, I was gonna say, but do you think this is the beginning? I mean, obviously, when you're the England manager, you're under constant pressure, like you're gonna always be criticised for everything you do. But do you think losing that final in the way that we did it, we scored early, we looked unbelievable, and then the criticism was Southgate didn't know how to manage the game from that point on. We sat too deep, we invited pressure, we couldn't handle it. And for me, when I was thinking about this Southgate era, that felt like the turning point, which, not saying I agree with, but that's when that criticism really started to take
I think
centre stage,
in the 3 years, because I guess it was the year, it wasn't actually 2020, was it? 2021. In the 3 years, Southgate had done really well, where essentially no one had really been able to criticise him because he'd kind of gone beyond everyone's expectations. I always think, again, in 2018, like when he's celebrating the fans in his waistcoat and, they're singing songs for Gareth Southgate, it was such a nice time where it was almost like you can't criticise what he's doing. The squad at the time probably wasn't good enough, absolutely fine. I think in that time, people were starting to think, unfortunately, with the Italy game, again, went to penalties. Like there is an element, it is penalties. That is just how things work out. We saw the backlash as well that some of the players got afterwards. Absolutely ridiculous, horrendous. But it is just penalties. The thing that I think people then started to think was this squad is now really good. This squad is one of the best in Europe, has every chance, which we're lucky enough to say now for the last 6 years or so, it has probably the chance to win a trophy at every single tournament we play at now. And I do think that is where people started questioning, okay, Southgate's done an amazing job at getting us to love England again, but especially when it seemed like, and of course we don't know, we weren't in the training room, but it seemed like England became a lot more defensive after the first goal, and especially in the second half.
Yeah.
Before Italy score, that's where you think, okay, maybe if it was, say, a more experienced manager, or again at this point it's only his second tournament, or someone that had a bigger name, for instance, as well, would the media have been a bit more like, if say, I don't know why, if say he's the first person that came to mind, if say Arsene Wenger had made that decision, would there have been as much slating about the kind of the tactics that he'd done?
It's a fair point.
It was also like the players were inexperienced at that point too, and I think they probably got away with it a little bit criticism wise in terms of how they because I don't think to this day that Southgate went, right, we're going to put 11 men behind the ball and don't even try and go forward, just hoop the ball away. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But equally, we had only conceded one goal that tournament. At half-time in the final, we conceded one goal the entire tournament. It was Damsgaard scoring a 30-yard free kick.
Yeah.
And I guess the way of looking at it is, we've had by far the best defence in the tournament. If we keep a clean sheet for 45 minutes, we've won the Euros. I get the way of approaching it, but it's a classic conundrum for any team, right? Like, how much do you what if we got caught on the counter-attack and Italy equalised? Like, they ultimately scored from a corner, which I think Pickford made a ridiculous save, hits the post, comes back out, and then Bonucci scores. And you're right, then penalties could have gone... It could have gone either way.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's why sometimes when people look back at it, they're a little bit too harsh on him for the fact that I don't think people realise how penalties is so just 50-50. It depends who turns up at the moment. Depends what happens in that exact moment.
Donnarumma is an incredible penalty saver.
Exactly, exactly. And I think, don't we go ahead as well?
Yeah, they missed their first one or two, I think.
Which I think maybe stings a little bit more because you realise, well, we were closer. It was in our hands. We had the deciding ones, whatnot.
That, in some ways, very selfishly, I'm glad we didn't win that game because for the final, I was so nervous all day. Like, I'd seen my Palace in the FA Cup final a few years before. So nervous, I just couldn't eat anything. My appetite gone, and I ended up just getting like blackout drunk, basically, not by design, just through nerves. So I vaguely remember Luke Shaw scoring.
Yeah,
I then don't remember any of the rest of the game at all. Then I kind of remember penalties, but I had my head in my hands the whole thing, so I didn't know that Maguire had done that penalty. And then I think we were 2-0 up. I think potentially in the shootout, maybe 2-1. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna get my head out of my hands. I'm gonna watch the shootout. I looked up, Rashford missed, and I was like, back down I go. Didn't watch any of the rest of the penalties, so I didn't know until the next day that Jorginho had missed and Pickford saved it. And I watched it back, and I was like, oh my god, like I'm kind of glad I didn't know that because at the time I'd have been like, it's happening. Jorginho doesn't miss.
So I was like that. I funnily enough, didn't manage to get a ticket to the final. So me and a bunch of mates ended up going to like one of, again, loads of these pop-up events had happened.
Yeah.
And I was at this like underground arches bar place in Waterloo, I think. Anyway, paid £20 for a ticket or whatever. The DJ wasn't very good, but anyway, the game's happening. We get into the penalties. I keep in mind when penalties first started, the music's already playing from the venue, and it's like house music. Penalties are starting. Everyone's like shitting themselves.
Yeah.
It's like, doof, 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 and you're like, can we get this? Can we sort this out? Something's got to happen here. Yeah. Eventually gets turned off. Anyway, obviously, what happens. And rather than the venue being like, okay, let's give everyone like 5 minutes, 4 minutes to like 10 minutes to like give them their emotions, straight away, Italy like had their winning one happen. And like about 10 seconds later, she goes doosh, 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 and I've never had such a weird amount of like feelings inside me where we were literally just looked at the boys and we got to get out of here. Got to leave. And I think I was saying it beforehand. We are leaving, and I go, oh lads, just give me like 10 seconds. And I turn around to the bar and I just go, I have a little cry to myself.
Yeah,
and then I leave.
I remember getting the bus home. I remember it rained.
It did rain.
I walked to this bus stop, and it had no cover on it. And I was stood there with about 3 of my mates. About 30 of us had watched it, and I was just stood in this unsheltered bus stop, getting drenched, and then getting on the bus. And every time someone got on the bus, it was another depressed England fan. It was just this bus in complete silence, with everyone with their face painted. But yeah, I mean,
I got the bus home as well. I watched it in Peckham, and I was plastered. I will blame that for this. I sobbed. I absolutely sobbed all the way home.
I cried more at 2018, I think, but still.
Yeah, it was just like... Because I think the COVID part of it is such a massive part of it. It was such a release for everyone, and it was like everyone just kind of like latched onto it, and it was just such an anticlimax.
Well, that must have only been like I'm thinking of that event that I went to for the final. That must have only been like maybe the fourth thing I'd been with. Like so many people allowed.
100%. I think it would have been the same for a lot of other countries in the tournament. But just speaking from our perspective, like it was the first time really you're with your mates in 6 months all together and not on a Zoom call or something stupid. So
you're doing a quiz.
I think that to me feels like probably the biggest missed opportunity, I think, of Southgate's tenure. I mean, I guess we can talk about the future tournaments as well, but that did feel like everything was geared towards us doing it. It just felt like everything was
Wembley?
Also, I think Wembley's a massive thing. You're playing every game at Wembley apart from
obviously,
one.
England have the Euros here in a couple of years' time, isn't it?
Yeah,
there is one. I think that England have playing in front of your home crowd where the majority of people are English, but in the same place. You don't have to travel anywhere. You're in the comfort of your own home. You train at the same training ground. That makes such a difference.
Of course,
it makes such a difference. You're used to this kind of era. The boys play at Wembley all the time. Like that makes a huge difference to what I think other places are when they go to Qatar and they're playing in the winter. All these kind of things. It feels natural to you, and I think that can help you a lot. It's no surprise that when France hosted the World Cup, they ended up winning it. Helps they had Kylian Mbappe, was a pretty good player. But still, like I think it does make a big factor. But it was sad. It was really, really sad. And I think you're right. I think I don't know. Whereas, and again, we'll get on to them later, but Spain were really good in obviously the most recent Euros.
Yes.
Whereas Italy weren't.
We could have.
Yeah.
They had, to be fair, they had a tough run.
No,
to the final.
Definitely. Donnarumma was amazing in that. Donnarumma was literally amazing in that tournament.
They were a good
Chiesa just was breaking through at the time. He was incredible. Jorginho was like playing out of his skin at times in some of these games.
Third in the Ballon d'Or.
The year he got third,
God, even the defense, but like I know it was a little bit older, but they were still just like so experienced and elite. Also, who was the left back? Went to play for Roma.
Spinazzola.
Spinazzola was like outrageous.
Did he do his ACL straight after the tournament?
But the whole tournament, he was like fucking crazy. He was so good, and then has kind of gone into a bit of mediocrity afterwards. But still,
it's worth noting that tournament, according to the FA, was still ahead of schedule.
Yes.
The whole thing from 2018 onwards was about Qatar. Qatar was the North Star. This is the tournament where everything should, in theory, gear towards us winning that. Mm-hmm. I still think, to this day, that is the 2022 World Cup England was the best England team I've ever seen. I think, in terms of just the performance levels, I thought we were absolutely brilliant in that tournament. Apart from the USA game, we were terrible in that. But like, I mean, we had quite an easy group. Battered Iran, beat Wales comfortably. But like Senegal at that point, I think they were AFCON holders, and we comfortably beat them.
Yeah,
and then there was.
And then Harry Kane missed.
It's always funny because I have a little bit of a different experience. Very fortunately, I was out there for work the whole tournament. I went to every England game. Atmosphere was a little bit different, considering obviously the previous one was in England. And it's such a long way for people to come.
More subdued.
And like, so I don't quite know what it was like here because I wasn't here to experience it. And obviously it was winter.
It was weird. It was a bit weird
being
in the winter.
Being in a jacket and supporting England in the World Cup. Definitely weird. But the team was stacked, man. Yeah. In every position, it was really still left back. Feels like always for Gareth Southgate's entire time, left back was always a little bit of an issue because Luke Shaw was kind of always a little bit injured. Ben Chilwell would have a good season and then got injured leading up to the tournament.
Would that have been Trippier left back?
Trippier was left back, exactly. And it always ended up. Even if we go from 2018 to most recently, Kieran Trippier's left back. He's always left back. But England were Jude Bellingham. It was kind of the announcement of Jude Bellingham. I remember a lot of talk about Phil Foden obviously he'd paint his hair white in this one. Or was that the Euro previous one? Sorry, he had a lot. But that was a lot of spec. But he'd obviously now become a big player for Man City. A lot of things were expected of him. And this England squad were really, really impressive. And I sit here now and I think England were good in the France game. They were.
I think we were the better team.
I agree. I'd actually agree. I think England were better than France in that game. Harry Kane missed a penalty. And unfortunately, like if he scores that, and Tchouameni scores a really good goal.
Saka was fouled.
Exactly. Saka was fouled. And so there's a few things where I look back on it and it goes, you have to kind of mark that one a little bit down to football. Like
Yeah.
that is
Yeah,
just
exactly.
the football, like how it goes sometimes for you. And I do wonder. Do England beat Argentina?
Yeah, I was going to
because
ask.
because
sure.
I don't think we beat Argentina.
I just felt like, again, I was very fortunate to see Messi play a lot, and it was he was on a different planet, man.
It was
Yeah,
that
it
was
was
just
written.
written. It was written.
it was
It
the
genuinely
ultimate
was.
let him cook
He-
tournament, isn't it? Like he was just locked in. It was
Yeah.
just yeah.
It was 10 players who were willing to die for Messi
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Messi. And
But
they would
like,
just do
but
everything
even
he
Morocco-
wasn't.
But in football that gets thrown around. But I actually die.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I think they would have.
Yeah,
they
they
would-
would.
yeah, go on. Yeah.
But
They all
even like the
worshipped
next
him.
game, obviously, because don't France play Morocco in the
Yes, in
semis?
the semi, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would have been not an easy game for England
No,
either. Morocco were
were
really, really good
brilliant,
that
yeah.
tournament, and we're used to the kind of the what do you call it, the surroundings of
Yeah, the
Qatar and
climate.
stuff.
Yeah,
the
of
climate,
course,
exactly.
yeah.
But I do think that, and arguably maybe his most recent tournaments were the two best teams he had compared to the two previous tournaments. Like player for player, they were looking really, really good in
Yeah.
every single position here. Like I remember that was the argument about Trent, and doesn't Trent actually gets injured for that tournament or
remember.
beforehand?
Possibly,
Because I think there was a lot of talk about does Trent make it, and I think Trent, does he get injured?
I
Anyway,
think you actually might be right. I don't think
Yeah.
he went.
no,
did
because
he?
he didn't
It
go in there
sold the
because
there was some sort
Yeah.
of selection problem that got
Exactly.
sold
Yeah.
for
and then
him.
Kyle Walker and Trippier played
Ben,
because
ben,
Reece.
ben White, and then he went home.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. He goes home
Yeah.
midway. Reece James, I think, might have been injured as well during
What?
that
No
time.
You're
But anyway,
joking.
the squad was just stacked. I just remember I remember a lot of the talk being about Jude Bellingham. And again, this is like a Jude Bellingham who might have still been like 19 at the time,
Yeah.
teenager. And again, one of the things that needs to be said is Southgate did a really good job at giving them the moments at the right times. Like
Yeah.
he saw Jude and saw Bellingham come through and thought, you know what, this is a guy that is ready to play for England at a World Cup and be one of the focal points in the
Yeah.
10 position
Yeah,
or in the 8. And he did a really, really good job at that and bringing these guys through. And again, Harry Kane was kind of is always the focal point of England. He managed to. I actually thought he used Rashford in a really good way when he brought him off the bench at times, and he had really good moments. But I thought Southgate got it right for the majority of it, whereas in other people might be able to put criticism towards him. I actually think it just kind of puts it down to football and the reason we lost.
I think, though, unfortunately, like you said before, Qatar, Ollie, like this was the plan. This was the tournament it was supposed to be. So this felt like a little bit like potentially the beginning of the end for Southgate. Like
it was weird. It was weird. Yeah, like it was such an un-England way to go out. We play really well and lose.
Yeah.
Normally it's like we've been terrible and
Yeah.
somehow found ourselves in the quarterfinal and then we lost to a way better team.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
already chats wasn't there. It's like, does Southgate leave now?
yes.
Do you think
yeah.
does Southgate go now? Is that
Yeah.
his time done and we look towards another manager? Is that it?
I remember because
And he wasn't 100% sure, was he?
No. Well, he's kind of felt like he was never 100%
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, very
throughout
true.
his entire tenure.
Yeah, very true.
8-year
But
interim.
I remember it being because a lot of the narrative around then was England have never beaten a decent team in a major tournament under Southgate, which considering we'd just beaten Germany, I know Germany were not the same team, but they were still Germany. They still had very good players. And the way we lost to France was like it just didn't solve the debate
No.
because we didn't beat France, but we were definitely better than them, and it was like so. We can go toe to toe with these teams, and like you play that game 10 more times, we probably win it like 8 or 9 of them.
Yeah.
It was a weird way to end the tournament. Another story about where I watched that. That was the night me and my girlfriend had our anniversary dinner that night, and we had this booking at a restaurant, also in Peckham. Weirdly, we shouldn't go to Peckham in a major tournament because we always end up losing.
I'm
And
going to remember that.
I was like,
Not letting you go.
I was like, it's England France. Like, obviously, we're not missing that. And she was like, no, it's fine. Like, we've got time to go to the dinner booking, but we'll have to go like at full time. 90 minutes, we're going to have to leave straight away and go straight to dinner. So obviously, if it went to like extra time penalties, I don't know what we would have done. But we'd just been knocked out of the World Cup. Harry Kane missed a late penalty. I was like, obviously, as you always are, just like heartbroken. Then had to go straight to literally straight out to like a romantic
Bet you were
dinner.
fun company.
And I've never tried so hard in my life to like not be miserable. And I was just there, like it was just I had to actively block it out. And like every time like she'd get up to like go to the toilet, I'd go to the toilet. I'd just be like, oh, no.
I think if I compared it to the two previous years, I think, and again, maybe it's because I was working, but I felt like I was a little less bothered because I felt, I don't know, maybe I put it down to us being that I just thought we lost, but we were really good.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
Whereas in the previous ones, I was so maybe emotionally invested, but that whole World Cup felt so different, so weird.
Well, it was.
The whole December, mid-season.
it was odd. Yeah,
It was so weird to me that I don't know if it kind of felt real, like a proper tournament.
Well, and it's hard to match the energy of a home a home final.
Yes,
I know it was a home
very
tournament,
true.
but effectively
Very,
it was.
very
It was
true.
the
it's just-
complete opposite.
Yeah.
Like everything about the Qatar World Cup was the polar opposite to the Euros being, or most of the Euros for England being in England. It was just like, it was almost surreal looking. It doesn't feel, it kind of doesn't feel like a major tournament in some ways because it wasn't.
Well, what time did it kick off here as well? It must have been earlier than like a normal 8 p.m.
It was like a
kind of-
6
yeah,
o'clock, I
it's
think,
Okay,
5 or
not
6
terrible, not
o'clock.
terrible, but still.
And maybe I'm looking at it in hindsight as well, but I feel like it was such a messy narrative. Like from a football perspective of watching the tournament, it felt like there was
there
other
so
there was
many
other
different-
stories.
yeah,
I don't know if you
yeah,
agree,
yeah,
Ollie,
this whole
but even
time.
as an England fan, it was like that story was captivating. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and I think that just felt like maybe it almost overshadowed a little bit. I really remember having a strong feeling. I had a big debate with my mates. I was like, even if we're not beating this Argentina, I just thinking early on, I just don't think we get through.
It was Messi's tournament.
It just
Yeah,
Messi's
it
tournament.
was
The only thing I
tournament.
always do think is that I actually remember thinking that England kit we were wearing wasn't a
wasn't
winning
nice.
kit, if that
The
made
little
sense.
blue,
yeah. I remember
That's
thinking
the
like,
reason
I don't
then.
want us to win
Yeah.
in this kit.
Yeah.
Whereas the previous year where the badge in the middle,
best,
I was like,
that's
this is
unbelievable.
the
Great
winning kit.
shirt,
Like, this
the
kit
winning
can win us the trophy.
Before we move on to Euro 2024, shout out Jordan Henderson in that tournament because he was actually well good, and there was a lot of heat for him getting him
There
playing.
was,
and I remember
yes.
he was actually really. That's actually been a theme of Southgate's tenure, isn't it? Of players getting picked despite a lot of outward criticism
Yes.
and invariably doing pretty well.
100%.
Harry Maguire, case in
Always.
point.
Oh yeah.
There's always one player, isn't there? Normally, again, even in the most recent one, Gehi. I remember having a lot
Yeah.
of criticism at times about is he the player?
What
And
guy?
was probably actually our best player at that
Oh
time.
yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
Henderson kind of actually fits very perfectly with Southgate and describes his tenure
Yeah.
with England.
Yeah.
Because Henderson was always kind of in the centre of it the whole time, and played really pretty well in a lot of these moments. But at certain times, just never managed to have that final kind of thing click for him.
Yeah.
Scored a World Cup knockout goal though, didn't he,
did
against
indeed.
Senegal?
He didn't.
No one can ever take that away from him.
That's true. So we move on to Southgate's final dance, Germany,
Yeah.
2024.
And it
Bizarre
felt like it
tournament.
was the final
Weird.
dance, didn't
Yeah,
it? Like, even though
written stars.
all the years leading up to it, I think there'd been so much talk about how, like, does Southgate continue again? Like, I think in the background of all this thing, there's all these players coming through as well, where it's like, okay, somebody's got to integrate them. Like, he's done it well with Jude Bellingham, and then even at this point, I think there's chats about who's the next England striker.
Yeah.
Which is funny. I mean, I feel like before then it was like, obviously this is Harry Kane's last tournament as a striker, and we're probably looking at going, Harry Kane will lead the line for England this year,
Yeah.
as
Rightly
well.
so.
definitely.
Yeah, and definitely rightly so. But this tournament, I definitely am going in. It was almost, and everyone was saying it, England are favourites for this, and they should be favourites for this. England looked really, really good. All the players were in incredible form. Everybody was in every single position, just kind of like Qatar, to be fair, but even now to the next level, playing out of their skin. Saka has only got even better. Jude Bellingham's got even better. Phil Foden, I think at this point, is Man City's one of their key players. Everybody here, I know maybe at this point Sterling's kind of obviously dropping off, and he's been quite a crucial player for them. But otherwise, all over the pitch, Trent Alexander-Arnold is now the best right back in the world, arguably. Like, it felt like this was the Declan Rice, one of the best DMs. He's gone for £100 million at this point. England should be winning this trophy.
Yeah, and we
Nearly did.
We somehow narrowly lost the final and simultaneously never got going.
Do we put thought? Keep in mind the season he's just had, that Cole Palmer should have been playing.
I stand by, and I said this at the time and got slated, and Chelsea fans have hated me ever since. I stand by that Cole Palmer's role off the bench was the perfect role for him in that tournament.
I just wonder that he had the season of a lifetime. Like, it was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, and he is a moments player. People can talk about, he didn't score in finals, it's rubbish, but
Scored in that final.
Literally. But the form he was going into that tournament, I just think maybe you make a position for him. Like, I'm not saying you take Saka out. I don't know what it is, but I think he has to play. Because the other thing about that tournament, England actually weren't that good.
No,
England were
were
really poor.
the best
in a lot
moment of the
games.
tournament was Bellingham But
Yeah.
but it
But that whole game
really
was awful.
plastered
Yeah,
over that
we
game.
probably
We
had
were
one good
awful.
half against
Yes.
the Netherlands in the first half,
Completely agreed.
and that's it.
Completely
We
agreed.
were terrible for
Like,
the rest of it.
Mark
we-
Gehi, amazing
Yeah,
that
brilliant.
tournament. Amazing
If we-
that tournament.
I think if we'd lost that game to Slovakia, it's almost Iceland vibe.
No,
It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's like a
yes.
reset back to that.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
It's
But
horrendous.
this is where I think, like, I think Palmer might have been a big difference to that. Like at the time, and there's arguments about whether he's still at that level now. I think he's unbelievable, whatever. But he at the time was playing out of his skin. He was playing as well with no fear. He kind of plays like that all the time, but at that time especially, he was so new to everything. Like he was finally getting a starting position, and the other side of it as well. Opposition players were underrating him. They weren't worrying about Cole Palmer at the time. Cole Palmer, like, okay, he's had one good year in the Premier League. No, we've got to focus on Bukayo Saka. We've got to focus on Harry Kane,
Phil Foden.
Yeah, and again, Phil Foden, like again, not a great tournament for
Poor tournament.
Not many good performances in English shirt. And I do. It's the one thing and maybe it's the Chelsea bias in me. It quite easily could be, but it's the one thing I do really think where I'm like, should he have?
I think to counter it, we spoke about Maguire's success, Jordan Henderson's success. Like, if you start just putting in every player who has an unbelievable season, those players don't get minutes, and they were pivotal in so many tournaments.
I'm not criticising like, he's done such a bad thing, but it's more just that I do wonder, does Palmer, maybe if it just starts against Spain, do we have a better time from the off?
But you talk about making a position for Palmer. That was almost our big problem in that tournament. Was we tried to make a position for Trent in midfield, which didn't work.
Poor,
Then we had Foden left wing, Bellingham in the 10. Like, and it was not balanced.
The Trent in midfield thing I really enjoyed because it was like I never thought it would work. Yeah. And then it was just such a narrative. And when he did it, I felt like it was almost Southgate going like, there you fucking go.
I agree.
Have a look at that. What do you think of that then? Oh, shall I go back to doing my job and do the thing that I'm paid to do? Like everyone's telling me to play like everyone out of position.
It went a little bit of England of old. Where
yes.
It was like, how do we fit all of these good players in one 11?
But I hate that. I don't want to see that.
Because his
it's
whole
ridiculous.
career, his whole England career, he's shown.
If people had
I'm
it their
not
way,
doing that.
you'd have Grealish, Foden, Saka,
And
Bellingham,
sure.
Cole
Sure.
Palmer, Kane. Like, how does it all work? You can't fit them all in. Trent sitting.
Palmer was just a different
Where's the
beast.
balance?
Every tournament though, I'd made a video about this at the time. There's always the England saviour.
Yes.
The
Jack
one
Grealish was it in
it was
2021.
Rashford was in 2018 when Sterling was playing. Then it was Grealish. Then in 2022 it was Rashford again in Qatar. Then 2024 was Palmer. There always has to be the one player who's not in the team, and if that player starts,
that's the narrative.
But sadly, football's if buts maybes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like
I also people underestimate the value of being a sub in a major tournament.
Yeah,
right?
it's
Like
crucial.
ultimately, Palmer is on the pitch at the end of the Euros final, and like that is that more valuable than being on the pitch for the first hour?
You look at other sports; they're not even substitutes. There's closers or finishers, starters or finishers.
That's a different sport. Like this is football, unfortunately, and I just think with the way Palmer was playing, he had a season that we actually haven't seen. I'm not trying to just gas him, but like he had a season in the Premier League. We've not seen that very often. Like to have the level he did in front of goal and creatively, and I still think creatively he's undervalued. And I just wonder in that moment, rather than trying to fit everyone else in, maybe you look at this guy who is one of England's best players, and you're actually not giving him the moments. And the other thing as well is he has said publicly afterwards he was annoyed about that. Like,
well, he should be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you're a world-class footballer not
but
playing in a tournament for your team, and you come on and score. You'd all be the same. But I do disagree. I think it's a hindsight, an easy thing to go. He came on, he scored, he's amazing, 100%. And he's one of the best players on his day 100%. In the world.
And obviously we're against Lamine Yamal, who's like showcasing himself to the world and just unbelievable. Nico Williams having an absolutely ridiculous. The Spanish midfield, absolutely ridiculous.
Their team was so balanced. Like ultimately, we had some really good players, but we didn't have a left winger who was at the stand. I still think we should have brought Grealish to the tournament.
Did Gordon play?
No,
he didn't.
I think he came on in one game, didn't play
on.
again. He was actually another kind of England saviour. We also didn't
left
really.
Left back was a bit of an issue still again.
Left back. We also didn't really have. I know Kobbie Mainoo had a good tournament, but in that final, our midfield got dog walked. Really.
Yeah.
Like,
can you get the squad up for that Spain game, please?
I think I remember it.
Go on.
I think I remember it.
Pickford in goal.
We had Pickford in goal, and then the back. It was like a back 4/back 3 in possession of Walker, Stones, Gahey. Luke Shaw started.
Yeah.
Luke Shaw came straight into the team, having come on against.
But he'd come from an injury issues, hadn't he?
But he actually played all right in the final, from what I remember. And then it was Rice and Mainoo in midfield. Then we had Saka was playing like almost like right wing backy. He was playing quite deep. Bellingham was basically off the left in the game. Foden and then Kane.
That's right. Yeah.
I've actually described that perfectly.
Very good at it right now.
But the midfield pivot, and this has always been it's like the Michael Carrick, Adam Wharton profile of like someone who can go and get the ball to the centre backs. And as good as Colby Mainoo was that tournament, he wasn't the player who was dictating games. And I remember we just couldn't get out.
Did Wharton go?
Yes,
he does go.
Palace had 4 players in that England squad. We had the most players. Dean Henderson.
He did have them. Yeah.
So, mate, if we'd have won that tournament,
Eze
I'd have been
comes
running
on in one of the
Euros.
games as well, doesn't he? Eze comes on one of the games.
He came on against Denmark.
Yeah.
He got some minutes. But yeah, Wharton never got off the bench, which I get. He was young at the time and he only really had 6 months in the Prem. I mean, I am very confident.
But Southgate did do that actually a couple of times where he would, for the future, bring these young guys to experience it.
I think he did that a bit at this tournament, to be fair.
And that's what I mean. Yeah, because I always remember as well in 2018, they weren't in the squad, but Mason Mount, Phil Foden, and was it Jadon Sancho? All go with England just to experience it. I think they train and stuff. I think they did. But they don't. Like, they're not actually part of the playing squad or anything. They just go to experience it a little bit. So he'd always had like a bit in the back of his mind to like try and get these younger guys that he thought were part of the future into his side. And I think you've seen that throughout his entire tenure. But Spain were really good, but I do think tactically things were maybe not his best this tournament.
It felt like the end.
It did. Yeah, it was.
And but also as a Southgate fan, I was like, you know what? I almost like don't want him to be manager anymore because the treatment he got overall in his tenure, considering what he achieved for England, and I know people go, oh, no trophy, but yeah, I think he had more finals and as many semi-finals as every other England manager in history combined.
And it's about the feeling.
Yeah,
the feeling of when you cannot tell me. I would argue this with any England fan that they didn't enjoy.
Definitely.
What Gareth Southgate did.
I always just find especially the outcry post Southgate just showed to me that no one's ever going to be happy because,
that's
for instance, I don't know if we're going to touch upon him, but I love Thomas Tuchel. I absolutely adore him. I think he's a great appointment. But the whole backlash to him being a German manager or German showcased to me that if we were always annoyed, if people were always annoyed about Southgate, who was your other person you wanted in? Maybe now Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe in the last few years has become this great manager. Before that, you would not have wanted Eddie Howe. And Eddie Howe's at Bournemouth. That's not the manager you wanted. Like, you want to go back to Roy Hodgson. You want to go back. Gareth Southgate had the perfect blend of someone who definitely was willing to try new tactics or try getting England to play good football and possession-based football, but also had the incredible I think mindset of behind the scenes and trying to help the connection between the media and players and making sure people enjoyed coming to play for England rather than we hear all those stories about the Man United players and the Chelsea players and the Liverpool players sitting apart from each other like the year 11 school or something. So I think he's been the perfect kind of person for the last 8 years to build this England side to a place which unfortunately he never won something, but I like to think that's Thomas Tuchel can take from and basically finish the job.
Well, let's hope so.
I think if he does win something, a lot of credit will probably end up going to
as
Southgate as well. And as it should, I completely agree.
Built all the foundations, didn't he, really?
It's a shame. Like, I think we'll look back at, say when we're 40 years old and we're talking to our kids about 2018, guys.
Yeah.
Like, if you were only there, like literally. But we'll talk about it like Italia 90. Like everyone always talks about Italia 90 and like Gazza and all these guys and those famous clips of Lineker being like, have a word with it because all this kind of stuff. We'll do the same things, and we'll look back on it fondly. I just hope we can look back on it with the idea that set the foundation and England went on to do really, really well. Because unfortunately, what I don't want us to do is talk back on it when we're 40, 50 years old and go, we've still not won anything.
It was all for nothing.
That was all for nothing. Exactly that. Yeah,
that would be painful,
It would
wouldn't
be massively painful. Yeah.
But it won't be. Tuchel's going to win us something.
Yeah.
Confident?
Are we going to go Tuchel? Like, I love the guy. But I've got
bias.
a very biased view of Tuchel. What I will say that Tuchel does really well is parts of what Gareth Southgate does really well. He's great with the players, and he's great with the media, and that makes you want to root for him. Like Tuchel, it's not an easy job when he went in over Lampard, who was Chelsea fans absolutely adored, and people hated Tuchel at first because of just him replacing
Yeah.
Lampard, and ended up adoring him pretty quickly because he made this great mentality of it's us versus everyone else, and I think he can do that quite easily
I've
for
seen some
England.
clips of him this week with John Stones at the training ground,
Yeah.
and it's like he's had no club allegiances to John Stones. He's just there. Obviously,
He
I
actually
know
really,
England
really wanted him at Chelsea.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I can imagine. But he's just got his arm round him. He's having
That's
a
what he
chat.
does,
Then Haaland
like-
comes over and says hi. But it's like that. That
It's
is
like
the
Haaland Kipper. He
it's
goes, "Is that Thomas? What's he?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
Thomas Tuchel?"
Yeah.
Thomas Tuchel, mate.
Doing his John
But
Stones impression.
It's very Gareth Southgate, isn't it? And then you hope that he can add that extra tactical. I
Yeah.
mean, if you believe this, that extra tactical level that Southgate didn't have, and that can get us over the line.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's as I always think with Southgate, like he will be someone we look back on, I think, in 10 years, and hopefully we can all go like, what a guy. He's been knighted now. He'll be at the. I assume he'll probably be at the if England never won something, he'd be at the celebrations with the players and such, and
definitely.
he can, and he'll never himself go, I did a little bit of that. Like, I helped that. I don't think he'll ever say that himself. Like, that's the type of guy he is, I think. And it's nice that I think we don't. Like, I don't want Gareth Southgate to be a club manager. I don't want him to manage Man United. You know, it's been rumoured to Man United.
I think he got quite
in the
close
odds,
to getting to the Man United job.
but I don't want him to.
No.
Like, I don't think that.
Ruin-
What I genuinely want him
yeah.
to keep doing, go stay in the FA. Like, you're
Yes.
doing really
Yeah,
good
yeah,
things.
yeah,
like,
yeah.
for English football and the way, not just as well, like, something we need to give credit to him and the FA for as well, is the change they did in England's grassroots and upwards. Like, they went from, like, I always think, do you ever remember learning to play football and it was just about like long ball and like all this kind of stuff? And England made, I can't remember when it was, maybe 2012, 2011. It might have been along with the idea of Qatar. They wanted to change the way England played their football and the perception of football and academies and all this. And Southgate was a big part of this as well. Trying to
Massive.
be able to play nice and good and football that will ultimately be more than just about physicality. And that's one of the nice things I think you've seen Thomas Tuchel do, is he's also gone, what is part of the Premier League? It's about physicality and it's about getting us to play the English way, but also part of the new English way is with possession based and having great technical players, not just what we might have seen previous.
You say that you hope Southgate gets invited to the celebrations. If Frank de Boer got an invite to the FA Cup final in the Palace end, then I should hope that Southgate gets one.
That's mental.
People saw on the screen, they were like, is that Frank de Boer? I don't think he could take actually any credit.
yeah.
Maybe just love Crystal Palace. Maybe,
Yeah,
even
massive
though
fan
even
now.
though he only probably had a house there for a couple of months. That was it.
Well, I think we're all pretty aligned that we see it as a success then, don't we?
They are kind of, for me, like the ultimate. If you can't see the joy that Southgate's tenure brought beyond trophies, we spoke about moments like Trippier's free kick, the Colombia penalty shootout, Sterling's goal against Germany,
Bellingham.
Bellingham's
overhead
overhead
kick.
Watkins against Netherlands.
Watkins,
We've not even
Netherlands,
spoken about that.
unbelievable.
Like
Yeah.
there were so many moments where it was like, this is just great, and
Yeah.
like it does. Obviously, yeah, it would have been great to win something, but that doesn't diminish those memories at all for me.
I think football's always an amazing thing when you look back on it.
Yeah,
Like you won't think about the rough times, and you'll always think about mainly the good stuff. And Southgate's got a lot of good stuff there to think about. And if I had told you that after Roy Hodgson, after Sam Allardyce, that you'll look back in 8 years' time at Gareth Southgate and think he's the best manager in my lifetime we've ever had for England, you would have never believed me.
yeah.
No, yeah.
And that's what he's managed to do. And I think, yeah, he should always be very proud of what he's managed to do. And you know what? As I keep saying, football's football. Sometimes it's just not your turn, not your time to win that penalty shootout, and that's just kind of how it goes. Like he literally couldn't have got closer.
No,
Genuinely
it's,
couldn't
yeah.
have got closer to winning something for England.